Broadcasting from the city of brotherly love, Philadelphia to around the globe. You're listening to Shark Bite Biz, your exclusive place for business strategy, sales, marketing, and tech in the roaring 20s. And now, here's your host, David Strausser.
Episode of Shark Bite Biz. I'm David Strausser, and this is your place to learn how to achieve small business growth during a global pandemic. We have another one of those fun, creative type interviews for today. The entertainment industry has been hit extremely hard. Everybody knows this. New content's not coming out, and if it is, it's mostly independent type people like myself or other YouTubers or smaller things. Big production has been at a standstill, essentially. So today I'm bringing a friend of mine in. I'm bringing in Todd Seligman to discuss really how hard the entertainment industry has been hit. Him and his wife are small business owners, and they got this amazing technology that will change how you watch content. Well, I guess it really goes to how a director or producer will produce the content. And it's really gnarly tech. But his company has pretty much went to a standstill, and it stalled because all the investors he had lined up disappeared. Why? Well, a couple reasons. If you look at the state of the U.S. right now, we have civil unrest, there's a presidential election, and most notably, we're still in a dang global pandemic. Businesses and investors are being conservative. They're not throwing out cash like they used to. Mix that with most content that's being produced is doing it at a crawling speed because of everything that's going on, and it's not good for that industry as a whole. Remember, when we talk entertainment, Hollywood, all that fun stuff, it's not just these mega international corporations. There's a lot of mom and pop shops in the entertainment business. Todd's business is one of those. So, like I was saying, though, this is going to be one of those fun, all over the place type interviews where we discuss many, many topics. Todd Seligman is a producer for TV, movies, virtual reality, and augmented reality. He is focused on bringing the production paradigm into the 21st century by developing volumetric video production tools and techniques that will be the new platform for all media. He also loves to drink great wine, ride BMX, and weld. Yes, I said that correctly. Weld. So without further delay, let's bring Todd on in here.
Creative and innovation tips.
Hi, Todd. Welcome to Shark Bite Biz. So glad to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Hey, David. It's great to see you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. It's been a long time since we've seen each other, but finally, here we are, video chat, about to do this awesome podcast episode. So, obviously, I know who you are, but our first question for every single guest on this show is tell our listeners, tell our viewers out there, who are you? What's your background? What's your experience?
I'm Todd Seligman. I'm a producer and technologist in the entertainment technology space. I kind of came here in a roundabout way that includes being a professional BMX freestyle rider. And so there are a lot of interesting twists and turns to how I got to where I am and what I do today.
That's something that we've actually highlighted many times on this show. The career transformation that individuals have taken. Why did you switch from being a superstar BMX rider to production?
Well, it's funny. It's like I never really planned on making a career out of BMX. I loved it, and I was good enough at it that I kept winning contests and being asked to do shows and performances and stuff. So I paid my way through college riding my bike. I'd cram my classes into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then I'd be on a plane Thursday night or Friday morning, and I'd fly off and be a BMX rider for the weekend and go back. And then every summer I was on tour and everything, doing shows all over the world. So yeah, so I kind of muddled through that way, and had kind of the best of both
But
worlds.
you never wanted to make that an actual career? You just viewed that as a means of getting by?
Well, it wasn't exactly a means of getting by, but sort of in hindsight, it feels like that. You have to realize when I first turned pro in 1990, it was before X Games, before extreme sports got huge. I think the first pro contest I ever won, I think I won $500, and and so it wasn't
Times
much of a
have
living.
changed.
Oh yeah, for sure. So it wasn't much of a living, and so like I said, I paid my way through college, and when I got out of college, I had a really interesting opportunity to come. I got a grant from the Smithsonian to come to Los Angeles and do this year-long intensive that was going to be the future of installations for art galleries and museums and that kind of stuff. And I was using all this, then next generation technology. And it just so happened Los Angeles was the center of the, extreme sports world, or Southern California was the center of the extreme sports.
Right.
Southern California was the center of the extreme sports world. And so I got to continue doing both things that I really loved. Right. And I thought that I'd do that for a year or so and just, get to travel on somebody else's dime, basically. And extreme sports just kept getting bigger and bigger, and they kept paying me more money, and I got to travel more and meet more interesting and famous people. And so it just kind of, every year I kind of thought it was going to be my last year after college, and it kept going for another decade.
Right. No, that's great. So when did you actually have that divide when you went?
Oh gosh, it wasn't like a clean break. And when I say clean break, it's no pun intended. I did have several injuries in a row. And so, as I was in my 30s then, and as you get older, your body just heals fast. And I had to have these surgeries, and you'd recover from them, and then you come back and maybe you injure yourself again or whatever. And so there was like a year or two where it was a lot of that, and I just started getting more involved in the entertainment side of things, and so there was a certain point where I kind of had a choice. I don't know if you've ever seen the mega ramp, it's a giant ramp they have at X Games and everything, and it's
okay. I know what you're talking about. I did not know the name.
Yeah, you start off like 100 feet in the air, and you come down this big ramp to get speed, jump over a 70-foot gap, and then you land from that, and you go off another 25-foot tall ramp straight up into the air and everything, and so I kind of found myself in a weird place where I was riding fun, coming back from these injuries, making a living then as an editor for movie trailers, mostly commercials, movie trailers, and I thought, I'm going to be a mega ramp rider. I'm just going to come back and ride mega ramp, and I loved it. And so I started training on that with all these amazing, top pros in the world and everything. And it was just like taking everything. It was like level up,
Yeah.
and so I thought I was going to make a little comeback doing that. And then it was funny. It was just like there's this one day where I was out riding. I didn't crash. I just went really high and kind of drifted. Wind blew weird, or I drifted out and I landed super low. And so I probably dropped like 40 feet or so. It landed, and the impact so hard, like every joint in my body felt it, and like like my internal organs were jarred. And
you were over 30 at that point. And
I was probably 33 or 34 at that point.
Yeah, it's surprising what once you hit 30 mark, what hurts you that did not hurt you 5-10 years ago.
Oh yeah, like I said, I didn't even crash, but I just felt like impact of that, and it just like something clicked in my head, and I was like, what am I doing? I've got like a whole career in front of me. And and you know what, there was one other catalyst to it, and where that happened, that kind of clicked in my head, but I was like, you know what, maybe I just need to go and train really hard and focus on this. And so I was actually in Greenville, North Carolina. At that time, I was running a daily, running the BMX portion of a daily 1-hour TV show called Blue Torch TV.
Okay.
And it was all on extreme sport. And so, perfect marriage of my two worlds. And I was interviewing Dave Mira. He's an old friend of mine, and he was just like an awesome guy. And Dave's like, he's like, look, if you want to make a comeback, move to North Carolina. You can come live with me. You'll train with me. In 6 months, I'll have you in, the top 10 at X Games, and you'll be killing it. He's like, but if I were you, I would just go do this TV and movie stuff. He's like, you like it, right? I'm like, yeah, I love it. It's great. And he's like, yeah, he goes, I wish I had something like that to go into. And, and he's like, if I was you, I'd focus on that. He's like, you've got a whole career ahead of yourself there. He's like, why you want to go backwards and go do all the extreme sports stuff? You've done that. And, it was just like between that and that one time riding the mega ramp, I was just like, you know what? Dave's right. It's time. And so I basically just kind of
maybe I gotta get some old footage of you and just insert the clip playing over while you're talking. That would be great for this interview.
Oh, totally. I can find some clips.
Oh yeah, send me a clip or two, and I'll figure out some way to throw it up here on the screen while we're talking, so that they can see some of your highlights. That would be awesome. So I've got to ask this question because you do work TV, movies, and some of our biggest episodes have been from the entertainment industry between William Hung, Brian Vander Ark, the Verb Pipe. We've had Jenny Mann, the lead singer of Blame Shift, and she owns my bracelets I used to have in LA? She is the maker of the bracelets. The cool. Awesome jewelry string company called Strug. We're going to have Jack Douglas on, the keyboardist for Aerosmith. So I have to ask entertainment people some entertainment questions. What's the biggest TV show or movie that you've worked on to some degree?
Well, that show, I think there's different ways of looking at it. So that show, Blue Torch, like I said, that was daily, 1 hour a day, 5 days a week. I mean, it was a serious show. So that was a lot of work. Right. And then I worked at a place called Mandalay Entertainment for a while. And there I wasn't directly involved with the movies, but I did a lot of sort of behind the scenes, like work fixing their trailers or putting together like a short reel or whatever for the Angelina Jolie Beyond Borders and the Matthew Perry movie Serving Sarah, which is a terrible movie. If you haven't seen it, I don't necessarily recommend it. There's some funny stories with that one. And so anyway, and then when I was editing, before I became a producer, I did all the trailers and all the reels for Starship Troopers and a couple of the reels for Space Jam and Rob Roy.
Space Jam, that's a real classic one right there. It's Bugs Bunny, Michael Jordan. That was one of the first. I mean, I'm a '90s kid essentially. Grew up mostly. I mean, that was a really awesome movie for me at the time. Mixed media with real life mixed with the cartoons. And Michael Jordan was pretty darn hot at the moment. He was like the biggest player out there. So that was pretty cool. Pivoting right now then into, right now we're going through a global pandemic. This darn coronavirus bug does not want to let up.
wait, what's that? You said we're going through a what?
A global pandemic.
I hadn't heard about that.
You haven't heard about it yet?
No,
exactly.
You have to tell me more about that.
I could tell you plenty of stories. But how has that hurt or helped your industry? I mean, how are you handling production because of that?
Well, it's completely brought our industry to a halt for 99% of the production. Right. Things like animation and special effects driven projects. They figured out how to do some cool things. Like Mandalorian is still in production because they shoot using a virtual production technique that's similar to what we've been developing.
Wow. So The Mandalorian, does that mean that season 2 is not going to be delayed, we think? I'm hoping.
It shouldn't be delayed. It shouldn't be delayed too much. I know that they've been in production on it and everything through COVID.
Great.
So I'm looking forward to that one too. It's a great show.
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't pick it up to about week 3 or 4 until I kept hearing Mandalorian, man. I'm like, what is it? And then I finally checked it out and I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is what I needed in my life. Baby Yoda all the way.
I know, right? It's like you can't get enough of Baby Yoda. It's like one of the most genius devolution of a character, I think anybody's ever done.
Yeah. I mean, but I was surprised that they didn't have the toys and stuff like that ready by the time the show came out, because Baby Yoda was a big hit and there wasn't a lot of merchandise at the time.
No, I think it was sort of an accidental hit. I think Mandalorian was like an anchor for Disney Plus, but they really didn't know
Right.
how well Disney Plus was going to do.
Hmm.
So and of course the pandemic kind of
Yeah,
helped.
it
And
blew it up. People
yeah,
didn't have much other things to watch. It was The Mandalorian and Tiger King.
yeah, right. Wait, which I found I couldn't watch Tiger King. I watched one episode of it and I was just like, you know what, this is like a weird homoerotic redneck car crash in slow motion. I just really don't want to watch it.
Yeah, it was pretty intense, and I think that's also why it grabbed so much attention. So you own your own production company right now, correct?
Yeah, Tiger Pig Entertainment, and it's sort of on hiatus right now because of the pandemic. We're in the middle of doing some fundraising to sort of evolve it into equal part production company and technology studio.
Hmm.
And because we're working with this new technology for production called volumetric production,
Okay.
which would be great if we had it up and running for a pandemic because it's super social distancing, centric.
Right.
But it's one of those things where we're dealing with a lot of private equity companies and independent investors and stuff like that. And so like the pandemic hit and everybody's like put the brakes on, and we're
Everybody's
still
nervous. Even if
yeah.
you are in good financial sense, uh, people are nervous to spend because not only they didn't know how this pandemic was going to, but you do have the uncertainty of an election that's coming up. And there's a lot of things that are driving uncertainty to where even people that are well-funded, there like, okay, like with Vision 33, we get people that it's like, yes, we want to buy your SAP Business One solution, but it won't be till next year. We need to see where everything goes. Are you getting that then with that?
Yeah, well, we've got a lot of interest,
Mm-hmm.
and we get right up to that point where it's like the talks, get serious, and there's interest, and they want to know kind of how we're going to, unroll the whole thing, the technology and the process, and what our plan is, and then it just slows down to like a snail's pace, and it's funny because they're still there. We're still talking to them. They still appear to be very interested, but the money hasn't shown up yet.
Right. They're
And
gun
so,
shy. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I think just people are nervous. They're waiting to see where things go between everything that's cooking in the pot. I mean, that's one weird thing about our country. There's a lot of things going on right now, and it does have an impact on business, unfortunately. So let's take a step back, though. The technology that you just mentioned, I have no idea what it is, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners don't know what it is, but probably would like to. Can you explain what it is, please?
So the easiest way to explain it is it's capturing live action, the real world, in a way that allows you to capture everything three-dimensionally. Photorealistically, three-dimensionally, basically infinite resolution, and once we do that, we can edit the whole thing in what's essentially a game engine.
Right.
And so you pick you pick your camera, you pick your lenses, you pick your lighting, day or night, you pick all that stuff in post production, basically.
Wow.
So what's really great is directors, they have to kind of unlearn like the way that they've done things for, their entire career. But once they get into it, they realize that they can just focus on the performance. They don't need to, make all those other decisions don't need to be final. They can kind of figure it out. They can preview, how it's going to look, and they can do it. And, you can kind of preview the stuff however you want. You can put on virtual reality goggles as a director or a producer, and you can like literally be in the scene. You can be like right up next to the actor, like looking at the glimmer in their eye or whatever if you want. And it's all virtual, you're not really there. And so you can get exactly what you want out of your performance. And so in that regard, it's like, I mean, it just opens up Pandora's box as far as what's possible. But the beauty of producing stuff this way is it's not just for TV and film, even though it's great for those. Using the same content, the same assets that you're shooting, you can shoot TV, you can shoot film, you can shoot video games,
right?
Virtual reality, augmented
When you were
reality.
saying that, what was running through my head was something like Madden football, where
totally.
they're scanning a lot of the big players. They get the realistic looks into the game and stuff like that. So that's kind of what you're like. That would that be an applicable use of it?
Kind of, but instead of just scanning the player, you're actually filming them do this. So just to back up a little bit, the way that you do it is you send a small team to your location, or if it's like something that you're building in CGI or whatever, you build your scene first, and you can go capture it 3-dimensionally, every little blade of grass, everything from every angle. Only takes a couple guys to do that, and then you basically bring your location or your set back to the studio. And the easiest way to describe it is kind of like the holodeck or whatever. And so the actor then gets placed in this virtual scene, and they can do their performance and everything, and you can have everything going on in the background. You don't need real extras. You can have digital extras. You can, if you need to, when
you say digital extras, though, I mean, but will they look lifelike, or are they going to look like CGI type creation, or how would that work?
Yeah, well,
trying to imagine this.
Yeah, so right now there's not a huge library of digital extras, so there's there's a finite supply of them because this is new technology. But so those libraries are growing, and eventually you'll just have kind of like basically like stock footage, but they'll be like stock extras, and you can change their clothes, you can change their hair, you can they're really virtual human beings,
right?
And if you want to capture your extras, and so like this is a perfect social distancing example. Instead of being on a set with 50 extras and these huge stars and everything, you can just shoot those extras one by one, or you shoot all the extras at once and then bring your stars in later. And so you can really kind of like create layers of that content. And if you need
that really reminds me about how, like, for example, music's produced. I love my guitars. I love my music. We just had Jack Douglas in here a couple weeks ago, and he was explaining some of the recording process about how, you're essentially doing like the layers of music, one instrument at a time, things like that. So that's kind of what you're doing, but with the visual aspect of it as well, too.
Yeah,
that's
pretty
absolutely awesome. How many companies are using that technology today? I mean, this isn't proprietary, I assume, or is it?
Well, the way that we're doing it is proprietary, and so we're kind of taking. There's a few studios that exist right now that are doing things at a very high level. There's an Intel studio over in El Segundo. There's a Microsoft studio that just moved up like far into the valley.
Okay.
There's a big one out of England, and then there's a bunch of like smaller ones that use these techniques to kind of do music videos, or it's really great for motion captures because you don't need to have like the ping pong balls on the suit anymore. You can just have people and they get changed into whatever you need to change them into. So in that regard, there's a fair number of them. There's only maybe like a handful that can really do things at a high level.
Okay.
And so so those, I mean, while they're kind of our competition, because we're actually extending what the software can do and what the technology can do, they're probably going to wind up licensing our product down the road anyway, because it's a huge improvement.
Right. So it is, in a way, proprietary, and that really makes sense, because I can see then where your love for tech collides with your love for production and entertainment and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. Do you think, though, that, I mean, obviously that solution's going to be ready for a quarantine type world, but What other changes are you seeing because of this pandemic? What other trends are out there in the entertainment industry?
Oh gosh. Well, I mean, there's a lot of people trying to kind of fit a square peg in a round hole,
Yep.
and they're like, oh well, we'll go shoot in Iceland. Iceland, created their COVID compliant rules for production kind of before anybody else, and there are all these shows that decide to go up there, and they up their budgets and stuff in order to be compliant with all those rules and everything. And they got up there and they realized that they couldn't do it, and so most of those productions had to stop.
Why couldn't they do it? Because they weren't able to stay compliant, or other issues?
It was just too expensive to do it that way.
Okay.
The one specific one, I'm forgetting the title, but they decided to move it to Iceland and shoot it up there, and they had all the they had all the rules from the guild and everything they were complying with, and I think they had upped their budget by 40%.
Okay,
which is huge on something like this, and
right,
and they had to stop it because they were blowing past that in the first week of shooting. So. And don't quote me on all those numbers. It's just kind of like what you.
I'm going to put it in the description, Todd.
I know. It'll come back to me, and it'll be like, Seligman.
Todd Tiger Pig said this, but no, that's really, really interesting. And what other pivots have you? I mean, you told us that your personal struggle with your business of trying to get the funding with this new technology. But as a small business owner, are there any other pivots you have had to make because of the global pandemic?
I'm sure there's a ton. All our meetings are now virtual meetings, and and that's something where Hollywood in particular is really about relationships. And if you don't already have that relationship with some of these folks, it's hard to capture that rapport over Zoom or whatever. And so I think that also is it might not be keeping us from doing the business, but it's definitely making it a slower and more it's making it a slower and more tedious process.
Right. I mean, the in-person, meet and greet to where you can really charm a person. It's very hard to do that throughout email or even on a video call. I mean, you kind of have to meet a person, and then you get the vibe from the person, and then, hopefully everything kind of connects and fits together. So we do have to start getting wrapped up. Do you have any final words of wisdom out there for people? I know you have many.
Lots of words. You know what? I think the most important thing for me, being able to kind of segue from one industry to another, and also being able to sort of remain on the bleeding edge of what's happening. And I think it was kind of baked into my DNA. But very early on as a BMX rider, I had to learn how to take risks.
Yeah.
You had to be smart with your risk taking, and know that you're going to fall down. That you're not going to succeed 100% of the time, and so you gotta, with taking those risks, you have to learn how to fall, how to get up, dust yourself off, and try again. And so I think more than anything else, that is the thing that has propelled me forward and allowed me to succeed and not get, just discouraged or quit or go take a 9-to-5 or whatever, because that's just baked into me. And I think it's something that people can learn. I know I learned it. I wasn't a huge natural talent at BMX.
Right.
A lot of guys are, and they usually wind up quitting as soon as they get a car or girlfriend or whatever. And some of us had to really work at it.
You quit being a BMX star because you get a girlfriend. Is it really like that?
Oh, well, back, before it was popular,
Oh, yeah,
So
back
in the day, I remember in high school, I asked this girl out, and she's like, "What are you going to take me out on your handlebars of your bike?" And it was just it's I have a car, it's fine. I can pick you up in the car.
That's funny. Yeah,
but yeah,
it's true.
yeah. So figuring out, kind of like, what your passion is, what your goal is, and everything is really important. But then also, knowing that it's not just going to like magically happen. You got to work at it. You got to fail at it. You got to come back for more. That's probably the single most important thing.
I think I'd like to add something in there because, I mean, you just can't do it knowing that you're going to fail. I mean, yeah, you're going to fail sometimes. But I think the big step that's missing in between there, to me at least personally, is you have to be able to self-evaluate with everything you do, whether it's successful or failure, because you have to say, hey, what worked and what didn't work. So that way you can point out the good with the bad to keep doing something that's good going forward and not do something, you know what I mean? Without that evaluation, I think it's hard.
I'm a big fan of the postmortem. It's, whenever we have a team and if we, even if you knock it out of the park, it's a good idea to go and sit down and figure out like what worked. I mean,
right. I think a lot of people don't do the postmortem on something that they hit a home run on out of the park. They just kind of, well, I didn't lose it. We're good. I did everything perfect. But realistically, even if you hit a home run, you probably had a minor misstep here or there that if you realize that going forward, you can hit another home run that much easier.
Yeah. I mean, if you understand the mechanics that are happening when they're happening, as opposed to having to do a postmortem and go, oh, that was when it happened. It's the next time you come back to it, you're coming in with your eyes open, and you can kind of expect how somebody's going to react, or how a situation is going to evolve, and so that's just experience, and so what, I'll leave you this. Hold on a second, I was watering a little. So there's
I have that effect on people, Todd.
Yeah. Oh, God, I got all misty. So this is a quote, and I actually went back. I first heard it from a base jumper in a wingsuit flyer. Who I was working on a commercial with years ago when I did stunt work on commercials and movies and TV shows and stuff too on my bike. So we were doing like a Mountain Dew commercial or something, and he was sitting, just we were in the trailer compound or whatever, just, shooting the shit. And he's like, he goes, and then he actually later recounts this in a documentary that I saw, which is what reminded me of the quote. And I'm like, oh, I got to remember that. But it goes back to pilots, and it's a thing that pilots use to describe becoming a really good, competent pilot. And they say, when you first start out, you have two buckets, one for luck and one for experience. Your luck bucket is full. And so every time you do something, you take one chip out of your luck bucket and you put it in your experience bucket. At a certain point, just through like the odds of success and failure and everything else, your luck bucket is empty, and all you have to rely on is experience. Yeah. And so I think that's really important. And a lot of people don't get that. They just think they're good at what they do or whatever, and that's enough. And it's really not. Right. You have to kind of keep growing, keep learning, maintain that same rigorous level of reinventing yourself in order to stay competitive.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. That's one of the reasons why I ended up starting this podcast. I haven't been able to network, can't get out, can't do like I was doing out there in LA with events or anything. And I still want to grow as a professional by meeting people. And I started this show, and it was like, hey, look, I'm going to take everybody else with me on this ride. And I hope that it's reaching a lot of people and helping them grow. So, Todd, how can people get in touch with you?
TigerPigEntertainment.com is probably the easiest way. And I'm also on every form of social media there is, except for TikTok. I never got into TikTok. But
you should do TikToks.
Well, I understand that, Trump's taking it down in the States anyway, so I don't know how eager I am to.
Well, apparently I just saw Walmart and Microsoft are working together to buy it. So that's the craziest mashup, I think. Two dinosaur companies that are buying like this young hip thing. It's kind of crazy, ironic, I view it.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how it works. It's like, the big fish gobbles up the nimble, spry, good-looking little young fish, and so
I mean, I guess Microsoft
alive.
does own LinkedIn, so maybe it does. They do have a social media play there. I guess it's interesting. Be very interesting to see where that all goes. But I will put the link down in the description so people can find your website. Hey, Todd, thank you so much for being here. It's been a great chat. And I look forward to having you back once this is all done so you can tell us about all those great deals that you made.
It sounds like a great idea. Thank you so much, David. I really had a lot of fun. Good seeing you.
Yeah, good seeing you too, bud. Take care. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Cheers. Ex-BMXer. I really love talking with Todd. Great man, and as you could tell, very much an intellectual. And I gotta say, anytime you can sneak Baby Yoda into a conversation, you know it's a good convo, right? Seriously, as you all know, I try to highlight individuals, their career, their transformation, all that good stuff. How crazy was it to go from PMXer that was successful to working in tech and production in the entertainment industry? Pretty rockin' story. In fact, as we release this episode, the Mandalorian 2 trailer has actually dropped, so Todd was absolutely correct. The production of that didn't stop because of the way they film it using a technology that's very similar to what Todd's company offers. Personally, me, you all know this, I'm fascinated by technology. I'm a huge fan of finding out how things work and all come together. The entertainment industry has always been at the forefront of technology. Look at Star Wars when released with all their special effects to even some more modern shows, even shows here on YouTube. There's a lot of cool stuff, and the technology that Todd has sounds like it can take this all to the next level beyond. And again, similar to how the Mandalorian is made. Some really cool stuff is coming, I feel, once all these social issues work out and Todd's company's truly able to ramp up. Another cool point hearing from Todd is about the relationship aspect. It is hard to make new relationships and friendships today. Even if you're on a Zoom call, really building a relationship with somebody is tough. Virtual networking is something that most of us have not figured out. And even if you have, chances are the others on the call have not. It is slowing people like Todd from really being able to excel with his company. This was a fun video. I love these discussions, pop culture, all that great stuff. Good conversation. What did you think? So today we're going to ask a fun question for discussion. What is your all-time favorite special effects-based movie? Think something like Star Wars, something in that degree. Comment down below. Let's chat about it and let's have some fun today. Do you want to be a guest on the show? Got a good business story? You want to talk about how your business pivoted during quarantine? Shoot me an email, david@sharkbitebiz.com. Once again, I'm David Strausser. This is Shark Bite Biz, and I'll see you next episode. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Shark Bite Biz. We hope you got some insightful info from this podcast. Be sure to subscribe to us through your favorite podcast app and visit us on the web at www.sharkbitebiz.com. How has business changed for you in the 20s? Email us at podcast@sharkbitebiz.com so you can join us and share your story.